Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call this Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order tonight. The first order of business is to elect a chairperson for 2021. I hope I said that right. May I have a nomination for chair?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mr. Mark Elber to resume his position as chair of the board.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second that motion.
And Mark, will you accept if you? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And next, we would like to nominate a vice chair for 2021.
I would nominate Daniel as vice chair.
Do we have a second? Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll turn the meeting over to Chairman Gelber.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We've got a quorum today, so we're in good shape. We'd like to welcome our new members, Sarah Harrison and Michael Gordy. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of minutes for the last meeting. Could I have a motion for approval, or does anybody have any questions?
Move to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Second? Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. Great. For our public hearing tonight, we've got V21-02, Young Fence Variance, Ruth Farm Way. Consideration of a variance to increase the height of a residential privacy fence along the real property line from 6 feet 6 inches to 8 feet, and to allow the fence to remain within the landscape strip along Mayfield Road. The subject property is located at 12737 Ruth's Farm Way in the Ruth's Farm subdivision. On behalf of the city, Mr. Woodman, will you?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. As Mr. Gelber mentioned, the item before you is a variance request to increase the height of a residential privacy fence from 6 foot to 8 foot. The fence is in place currently. Our code enforcement folks identified the fence and placed the property owner on notice that they needed to resolve the matter. The fence was constructed at the corner of the property in an effort to screen the property from vehicle headlights and noise from the adjacent intersection at Mayfield Road and Freemanville Road. Have the location map up on the overhead. This is that intersection. The house faces the cul-de-sac, and then you can see the intersection goes right to the back of the resident's backyard. Here's a site plan showing the fence in question. There's 36 feet of fence along their western property line and 44 feet of fence along Mayfield Road. Here's an aerial, just a close-in aerial, just to give you an idea. You can see the fence was placed approximately in this location, and you can see from the aerial that there's not a lot of landscape material here. I'll go into those details here in just a second. Here's a street view of the property from the intersection. This is a street view before the applicant put the fence, and here's the after situation. So the fence actually, I just go back to this picture. So the fence is actually, the variance request is actually for the height of the fence. So the fence on a residential property is supposed to be 6 feet. The fence was constructed at 8 feet in order to obstruct the car headlights coming in through the backyard. The fence is also placed within the 20-foot landscape strip. So there are two variances associated with this. This is a landscape, this is an as-built landscape for the Ruth's Farm subdivision. The applicant's property is this property here. No, you may not be able to see it here, but this as-built shows that one of these trees is dead and the other one was in poor condition. That's why you have no landscaping through there. So basically, what has occurred is that one of the developers of this subdivision, because there were multiple developers, did not complete the landscape strip in this location. And as a result, the homeowner put a fence up there to obstruct the headlights from coming into their rear yard. The distance of that particular area is about 20 to 25 feet. It can accommodate approximately 2 to 3 13-foot to 14-foot emerald green arborvitae evergreen trees. Also of note is that at the time that the homeowner purchased the property, the developer of their property was the Providence Group, and the Providence Group, before this subdivision was turned over to the HOA, gave the property owner permission to put up the fence in that location. City has contacted the Providence Group, and we are working with them directly to resolve those landscape deficiencies. So there was not a final approval of the landscape strip, and we are working with Providence Group to get that required landscaping in that location, which will help screen that fence. The applicant, as part of the variance request, notified the adjacent properties as well as the HOA, and the HOA did provide the homeowner with an exception letter stating that if the city were to approve this variance, these are the conditions of approval. And the 7 conditions here, and we reference this letter as Exhibit A, as it's labeled, in the conditions. In the conditions, again, staff reviewed the applicant's proposal and does not believe that the variance conflicts with the established criteria. We do believe that the applicant does have a hardship, being that the property is located backing up to an intersection, and they were just trying to resolve a matter with regard to the headlights shining into their backyard. Staff is recommending approval subject to the following conditions. 1, an 8-foot privacy fence shall be permitted as depicted on the submitted plans and photos. And 2, property owner shall comply with the Ruth's Farm HOA guidelines as established in the submitted letter labeled Exhibit A, except that the Providence Group shall plant the evergreen trees along Mayfield Road with final approval by staff. And that exception at the end of that sentence is to specifically deal with condition number 5. Condition number 5 in the HOA's letter asks the property owner to plant 6 emerald green arborvitae trees, minimum 4 to 5 feet at planting. We believe that the more appropriate planting at that location, and this has been confirmed with the city arborist, that 2 to 3 emerald green arborvitaes planted at 13 to 14 feet would be appropriate in that location. This information was shared with the applicant, and the applicant has discussed the matter with the HOA, and the HOA is in agreement. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions from any board members? The city? Thank you, Mr. Woodman. Could we have the applicant come forward, please? Good evening.
How you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Leave this on, take this off, doesn't matter?
You can take it off.
Okay.
Please tell us,
I'm in, I guess the biggest thing, Gary Young, been a long-term Alpharetta resident, and I don't know, 20-some years, I guess. First of all, I just want to put on record that working with the city's been amazing. The response time and what the thoroughness and making sure I understand what I'm supposed to do. So I'm in a total agreement with what is been recommended, and we're looking forward to the request or the approval of the request. Only other thing to make a statement on is, again, I always want to make sure that people probably ask the question, so why did you just go ahead and build a fence? So we actually had got approval from the HOA, and I happened to run out into a gentleman that was out there from the city of Alpharetta, and I'm not sure the position he held. So it wasn't probably the official way to go through, but I had talked to them about where I was doing it. We had stakes up so the HOA could see where it was going to go. And they said, hey, it's on your property. And so there was obviously, I was probably not talking to the right person, but I went ahead based on that, conversation as well as the HOA giving approval. And so the new HOA that took over, being the homeowners, had a little bit more concern about just the boldness of the fence, and that's why they requested, hey, could you put some trees up? And so that's where we stand with getting Providence Group to help with making the block on that. So outside of that, I don't think there's anything else to make mention of. The reason on the 8-foot, by the way, there was a reason for that too, is the way the property sits. The home and the deck actually are quite a bit substantially higher than the road. So a 6-foot fence actually wouldn't have blocked the lights. And so unfortunately, the way the road hits and comes in, it's just a really pretty rough spot for a home. And so putting that up there, and that was the original reason to talk to the developer. And all that was discussed prior to buying the home, that, hey, this is what I want to do. And that's where they gave the initial approval to go ahead and do it at that 8-foot, just because they knew the same stipulations of the amount of light and noise that comes in. And the noise is a factor because there's also some reason Milton allowed a dog, and maybe it was there before the residents all were, but we have a dog kennel that sits on that far corner at the corner of Freeman and Freemanville and Mayfield. And so the fence has been a substantial noise reduction as well. So it's an important piece to us, and we appreciate your consideration of allowing us to leave the fence.
Thank you.
Any questions?
From the board? Awesome. Okay. Would like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve V-21-02, Young Fence Variance, Roos Farm Way. Consideration of a variance to increase the height of a residential privacy fence along the rear property line from 6 feet to 8 feet, and to allow the fence to remain within the landscape strip along Mayfield Road. The subject property is located at 12737 Roos Farm Way in the Roos Farm subdivision with staff conditions.
Great. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Congratulations. Thank you. Any public questions, comments? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there a code to the iPad? I could get in and see all of the.
Michael, do you know the code, Michael? Do
Is
you
there
know
a
the code for the iPad? Is it 1, 2, 3, or is it, I think, 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
and then it brings up, all right, just so I don't bring my laptop next time, I'll
Well, I
save
think
my.
I found it